Hey everybody, this is Jordan with Farm Builder, and what we're going to talk about here is shading your animals out on the pasture. Okay, so one of the common dilemmas with putting animals on pasture and beginning to rotate them around in a controlled manner is how do we give them shade? Not everybody has trees or bushes for the animals to shade up underneath. And so we need to address that problem. We can use something like behind me here you see, that is a more permanent kind of shelter. It can be moved, but it can be a pain in the butt. So what we have done is we use shade that's on wheels that can move with the critters no matter where they go. And I'll show you here a shade wagon that we use for a wide variety of species. So a couple of things to keep in mind when you are developing shade for your animals. One is mobility. It needs to have the ability to move across the farm, maybe even down the road. The second thing is going to be adaptability to a wide variety of animals. So we don't want shade that can only be used for one type of animal. We want something that can be used for the chickens, for turkeys, for sheep, for pigs, and even for cows if necessary. And then the third thing is going to be cost. There's some nice shade systems out there that cost $20,000. Not all of us have that kind of money to afford those things, so we want to keep our costs in mind. So with those three things in mind, we'll look at this shade wagon. What we're showing you here is a design we came up with for a shade wagon, and we'll go over the details here real quick. This is a cheap, like $200 at the auction, hay wagon frame. Usually you can get these older ones that are not very good for heavy use, but they work great out here on the pasture. We've even had ones with the tires that come off and we can't get the rim off, but they work fine to drag around. So we got a $200 frame here. Underneath we've got some rough sawn lumber that we made this little grid out of that was not that expensive. And then underneath here we have a framework of 3/4 inch electrical conduit pipe, and you can just get a bender to bend it however you want on the edges there. And then our main supports here are made up of chain link fence material. So all of this stuff you can get at Lowe's. So you frame this up, bend it all together, and that creates the framework to hang our shade cloth on. Now for the shade cloth, you can get cheap ones, I know, or use tarps, but I have found that this is one area where I'm not going to skimp on spending, is the shade cloth. A good quality shade cloth will last years and also have a higher light block percentage on it. The ones you would find at your retailers are probably only going to be maybe a 60% shade cloth, but this one here is a 90% shade cloth. So a little bit more expensive on the cloth, but it's worth every penny. So what we can use this for is chickens. We've used it for turkeys. They like to roost on these cross members. We've used it for sheep, and then we use them a lot for pigs when they're out here on the pasture. So we can put shade wherever we want out in the field as the animals are moving across. So this area right here, we are about to move some little weaning pigs over here. You can see they're over here, and they're going to be coming over this way. And we're off and going. So this entire structure for the materials, we're probably looking at about $600 to buy all this stuff, and then to put it together. This one here is probably 5 or 6 years old. In fact, this year the frame, the previous cheap hay wagon frame we had gotten wore out, so we had to take it off, and then we just dropped this whole structure onto a new chassis that we picked up at an auction, and we're off and going with more shade. So very critical part of managing your animals on pasture is providing that good shade for them. By cobbling together materials, a little ingenuity, you can put the shade where your animals are and add that layer of management into your system. So I hope this helps. Hope you get some ideas here. If you got any questions, feel free to comment, and we will talk to you guys again next time. Get after it.